Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with our post-race media availability. We're joined by our race winner, Denny Hamlin, and crew chief, Chris Gabehart, and owner, Joe Gibbs. Just a couple of quick facts before we get going. This is Hamlin. With Hamlin's win tonight, he moves solely into the 17th on the all-time NASCAR Cup Series wins list, breaking his tie with NASCAR Hall of Famer Buck Baker. This is his 4th Cup win at Richmond, and Joe Gibbs Racing's series-leading 18th win at Richmond Raceway. So with that, we'll go ahead and open up to questions. Please state your name and affiliation, and we'll get a wireless mic to you. Let's go ahead and start right here with Matt.
Matt Weaver, Racing America. This is for Chris. I had to look at my notes. I was kind of reverse deconstructing this race. So on lap 260, you'd called Denny to pit road. You had thought about keeping him out, and that would have put him in front of the 24. So I'm curious, what was the mindset there? And would that have changed the entire course of your race?
Yeah, so you're talking about when we had run that short little stint and then got a caution there. Yeah, so it even goes back earlier than that. The stage prior to that, we ran 1 stop where everybody else ran 2. And my sole purpose for doing that was just save a set of tires for an instant where a caution would come out and everybody wouldn't pit because they didn't have a set. We got that break early in stage 3. And he was driving to the front. I mean, it was going to be 5 more laps. We were going to take the lead, and we got a caution. But at that point,
which is not what we wanted.
No, we wanted it to keep going because we were going to be in really good shape. Got that early caution, and it was a tough decision because we hadn't made up all the track position I wanted to make up, but you can't get greedy. At that point, we had at least made up enough that now we're in contention. Come down pit road and have a good pit stop, and he can go out and race it from there, and that's what he did. Now, obviously, some guys stayed out. It ended up working out really well for them, too. But I just didn't feel like that was going to be the winning play for our car and our team, and so I brought it down pit road, and the rest was history.
And for Denny, you guys were kind of going back and forth trying to figure out what the right call was. And how much trust does there have to be between you and a crew chief to be able to land on a strategy that you both feel comfortable and confident with?
Yeah, I mean, most times we're kind of on the same page, and when we're not, I kind of understand my role in it. You know, he's got way more information than I do. So, you know, I know what my job is when we go long. I know what my job is when we go short. Like, he keeps me informed, but, you know, he just tells me what to do, and I try to do my best. So, you know, it's just a great professional working relationship that has worked well for us.
Okay, let's go right here, then we'll come up to Bob.
This is for all 3 of you. Asked you, Denny, you know, before the race yesterday about this being a barometer for the organization. Obviously, really successful day for the organization, getting the win. Martin leading laps, Christopher leading some laps, and Kyle in contention all day. How did you feel about this car that maybe you didn't see in Phoenix or the other weeks, and just the development that kind of led to your victory today?
Yeah, I mean, we've been searching a little bit. You know, the first 6 races haven't gone great, but we've had, you know, some good, you know, over half of them we've had winning cars. I know that sounds crazy, you know, but, you know, Daytona I'm sure would be fine, and Atlanta we were good, and Vegas thought we had a great shot to win there. Now there's been some struggles in those other ones, but you know, we just we go to work. I mean, you know, Joe does a great job motivating all of our group, as if, you know, as if I need motivating. But it's, you know, we work really hard, and we know that, you know, waiting 7 races to win is, you know, not, we have a level of, you know, performance that we expect more than that. So I'm glad we're able to kind of turn the ship around, at least for a week, and then next week we're going to see if we've you know, really started to build some momentum going forward. But you know, I don't want to look too far ahead because I certainly want to celebrate this one, but it sure is a positive sign considering, you know, kind of how we ran as an organization at Phoenix. But you never know. I mean, this has been a great track for Joe Gibbs Racing for many, many years. For whatever reason, I think a lot of it comes from, you know, me and Kyle, you know, really pushing each other to get really good on these short tracks. And Martin, you know, it has really turned the corner and been one of the best short track racers that we have in our sport the last, you know, probably 4 to 5 years. And so when you got teammates you can feed off of like that, you're going to have a great chance to win.
Go ahead, Bob.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. I had two. First for Denny. Did you have a lot of confidence that you were going to be able to run down William there, or did it kind of come late?
Yeah, I told him I never even saw William. Once he kind of pulled away from me a little bit in that second to last run, I didn't see him from that point forward till 8 to go. So I just once I kind of looked at the gap that I gained from 8 to go to 6 to go, I was like, all right, we're gonna catch him. I was a little worried with the lap cars that were trying to stay on lead lap and get a lap back. There were a couple Fords that were side by side. When I had Harvick right behind me, but overall, I knew that I was racing the 4 for the most part, and it was just a matter of time on the 24.
And for Joe, Ben Bayshore is obviously a little frustrated with that call to bring Kyle in for the tape on the grill, which they said had been on there for a couple hundred laps. I'm curious if, I know Ben talked to NASCAR. I'm curious if you talked to NASCAR, and is there any, are you miffed about it?
No, I haven't, but I will. I think the point was, when that happened, if that was a penalty, then address it. And it wasn't till, I think, 2 stops later. And so I think that's our concern of, because that would have completely changed their strategy. And so I think that'll be something we discuss and go over.
Okay, let's come up here to Al.
Yeah, Coach Al Pearson, Motor Week. There haven't been many times during your term as an owner when you've had to pep talk a team. You've had pretty good sailing. How did you approach this kind of mini slump? Did you sit down with everybody individually or one big group or what?
No, I give the credit to the crew chiefs. They're the coaches over here, and they're in it. It's for them. It's every day, 18 hours a day. So they do a good job with it. Our meetings on Mondays, we talk everything over. There's discussions about, how do we go forward? How do we make this up? And I think generally as a group, we just got real good people, and we know we're giving it everything. And I think what this shows is how hard it is, because we got great people working really hard. And I always give credit to the people that found it. They go after it. They're winning races, and that's what we want to do. But we got a great group, and I just thank the Lord that we got this, because it means so much to every one of these. Are hard to get. I know Denny and Chris will tell you that, because they are hard to get. Last year, I think we were 9 times we were top 3 or something, and didn't get the win. And so these are hard to get. It's great for FedEx. It's great for our sponsors. It's great for Toyota. And so that's what I always think about, is those people. And everybody back at the race shop, Corey leading that group on the other side. All those guys, I wish they were here to enjoy it, when you get a win like this. But I'm taking some time here because it's just a big deal for us.
The motivation from the team comes by the example that Joe sets. And, Joe is not in his younger years, but he works full time at the race shop. I couldn't imagine, double my life from now working as hard as he does. And so he can crack the whip and go home and relax or whatever, but he doesn't. He works hard himself, and that the people that work in the shop see him walk in the shop floor for 8 hours a day. And so it ain't like, he's just an owner and makes the calls and y'all just go do the rest. He's hands-on owner, and I've been part of this organization from the very beginning, and it's not hard to want to work hard for him, because he puts his life and blood into this race team. This is what he does. This is his family races for a living. And so the guy's work ethic is just unmatched. And that's what's so great about this team, and makes you feel good when you can get a win for them.
Here, here.
Okay, let's go over.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Pat disagrees with you. We we tried staying at home. That doesn't work in our family. Thank you, Denny.
Dustin over here.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Couple for Chris. You referenced, Phoenix. Can you give me a sense of, I don't know if it's let down that weekend was, and how the process of going and attacking things. Obviously, you guys work hard every week to get the results and the change from Phoenix to here, and what went into what you guys got, what JGR got.
Yeah, that's a tough question, and in today's NASCAR schedule, the one thing that's hard to find is anything common. Like, we're comparing Richmond to Phoenix, which any insider will tell you is not much of a comparison, but it's all we have to draw off of these days because they've done such a nice job. Hello. Nope, we're all dead. I'll talk. They've done such a nice job of diversifying the schedule such that there is not a common thread. I mean, the first 7 races, they're all wildly different. And you're going to go to Martinsville, it's different again. And then a dirt race, and then on and on and on. So, yes, we learned stuff leaving Phoenix. Test. No. Yes, we've learned something leaving Phoenix that we're going to move forward to here with. But listen, this is a great track for our company. It's a great track for our drivers. It's 1 week, but it feels good to get it right as a company. And for me, while not getting into details, what I keep telling everybody, what I'm looking forward to most is that I know we're not at our best right now. Yes. There's a lot of things internally that we got to get better, and we're on a road to doing it. And it's nice to be able to win in spite of that, to be honest.
And also, you talked a little about the strategy. You guys got off, or the 19 got off on a different strategy too. So at the end of the day, JGR was covered with 2 different strategies. I think the point can be looked at. It's a little bit different situation, but at Vegas,
where the all the JGR cars did the same thing. So the Hendrick move wasn't covered. How much, when you go through the strategy, how was the decision to kind of go in the way you were going and not go off in a different path to make sure that, JGR was covered? It could have been you guys as opposed to the 19. How was that? Or is that as much done by the command center, feeding you certain things, or how is that done?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the success of our company, I think Joe could speak to this, is sometimes a downfall, and that he allows and encourages the head coaches and the drivers to be selfish and to do what you think's right for your race team at all times. And I think you can't argue with the number of wins that have come from that mentality. But when it comes to covering all aspects of a race, to your point, when a strategy is split, that is not top of mind because we think more about what's best for your car number than what's best for the team. So sometimes, like Vegas, you'll see where, you don't diverge the way you should to cover all your bases, or converge in the case of Vegas. I could make some points of some things maybe we should have done different in hindsight there. Unfortunately, we were, looking at bent control arms again. But it's difficult, and it's a very fine line to walk. And I can't imagine all the experience in years of coaching and leading people that Joe has seen, and certainly this race team. There's Mondays where you wish it were different, and there's Mondays where you're glad it's not. But I think overall you learn from all of those situations, and clearly our way of doing things has stood the test of time as being pretty good. So to answer your question specifically about this race, it was, I felt like we were more of a short run car than a long run car. Generally speaking, I felt like the 4 kind of behind me, there's a very short window when you're supposed to do certain things, and he set it off. We were on the fence about which way we were going to go, so as much playing the man as playing the situation. And once it got set off a certain way, you work all day long, all year long, to train your instincts. That's why you work Monday through Saturday, and all of the race team does, and Denny does. But in the instance, you've got to trust your instincts. If you think long, you will think wrong. And it was just something about that moment. I knew, okay, we're going this direction, and that's what we did.
Head back here.
Barry Richmond, Piedmont Broadcasting, WAKG in Danville. I guess you touched on, Chris, about not necessarily being able to transfer Phoenix to Richmond to other short tracks. But Denny, from the perspective of the current gen car, what's been the biggest adjustment as a driver that you've had to make, and maybe the strength that you see in this current incarnation of the current gen car?
Well, I think that, you know, for me, it's just I was kind of really honed in on the previous generation car on each track, and, you know, had enough notes and enough memory, track memory at each one of them to know that what I was searching for in a feel that was correct and won races. And the challenge to this one is figuring out what this car likes and how it makes speed. And I got to start all over again when I come to these racetracks. So that's the biggest challenge of it, beyond any, you know, shifting or braking or steering or anything like that. Those are all challenges, but it's more just figuring out what makes this car tick and what makes it go around the racetrack in the shortest amount of time, and what is my role in that.
For Coach, 2 days straight, victory yesterday, victory today here at Richmond. Talk about that from an organizational standpoint.
I can tell you this, we love coming to Richmond, and we got so many people here that we know and pull for us in the football world and all that. So it's really, for some reason, when we come here, I say it's probably our favorite place to come. If you want a victory, I'll put it that way. And so we feel good about it, and, you know, I'm just thrilled to have a chance to win at a place like this where there's so many great fans, and so many of them we've been around for a long time. So we just appreciate coming here.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. I have a few questions, so bear with me. Denny, this is for you. When you kind of start off like you have this year, do you look back at previous slow starts of the year? You know, 2010, first 5 races, your best finish was 17th, and yet, you know, you almost won the championship that year. Do you draw strength from that?
Well, I thought that there was no year that compared to this one, but that's good that you know that I didn't realize that. But you know, I honestly didn't. I went on NASCAR.com for the first time and looked at the standings last week. Yeah, I just knew we were buried. Whether you're 32nd or 23rd, it's like, what's the difference, right? It's just, you know, I know with it, we got a hole to dig out of, but you know, I told you guys on Saturday, like, am I concerned? No. You know, like we're gonna be okay. We're gonna make the playoffs. So, you know, if we don't, then he should fire me. But I'm not.
Really?
Yeah. But instead, now I'm going to ask for a raise. So.
You always do that.
But I mean, I don't draw parallels to it. Every season is so different. But just, you know, certainly our points position at the time wasn't indicative of like we were a 20-something place team. But did I think we were like a 10th place team? Yeah, probably. You know, that's probably about right when you average it all out. But I mentioned 3 tracks in the first 6 that I thought, okay, well, we could have won those if we didn't make mistakes. So I don't get too panicked because, like we talked about with the team, they just have so many good people that eventually it works itself out. When you can't just continue to have, you know, cautions not fall your way and, you know, get run into here and there, and it's just like eventually the starts can't roll the dice and it continue to roll 7 out every time. Eventually you're going to hit a point here and there. So the odds are that if you just keep banging on the door, it's going to open, and that's what we're trying to do.
And this question's for Chris. Chris, you hear Denny talk about not being panicked or anything. What was your assessment through this? Were you panicked? Did you believe we're going to be just fine? This is going to work itself out. We've had speed some weeks, and eventually we're going to make the playoffs and no problem?
Yeah, the answer is exactly the same as his. But I will say the catalyst for such uncertainty was this next gen car that is now current gen car. And it is, not only is it so different to drive, but it is massively different. I mean, it is the fundamentals of what it takes to make this car go good from a technical aspect are literally backwards. And because of that, you see a lot of parity and comers and goers with good setups and bad setups. And then you've got the difficulties of learning how to drive them and making some mistakes along the way, and the difficulties of learning the parts and pieces and dealing with some of the failures as an industry, trying to learn a new car, and all of the competition gets wrapped up in some of that. And I'll give you a great example. Chase Elliott coming into this race, I think, was the points leader, right? And I honestly, when I learned that leaving COTA last week, for some reason it floored me. And the reason was not that Chase and that team isn't a fantastic team, but it was literally the opposite of us. I don't think they've been stellar anywhere, but they've not had any whammies, evidently, because I think of Ross Chastain, that guy's been killing it. He was like 5th in points, but he's evidently had some whammies along the way with these new cars and circumstances that right now there's just a lot of uncertainty. And Denny, I know, has been beating the drum on it a lot, that you're going to see comers and goers very quickly in the standings right now. And it's just because things are so new, but too many good people. You got Toyota, you got FedEx, you got Joe Gibbs Racing, you got all the brilliant people that I get a chance to work with day in and day out. You ain't going to hold people like that back. You just got to keep working, stay the course, and you'll get your wins.
Last question for me. Kind of following up on Bob's question earlier about the tape on the grill, Chris. What is, for your perspective as a crew chief, what is an acceptable response from NASCAR when they're reviewing something like that? This apparently happened 125-ish, and they didn't learn until 50 laps to go or thereabouts.
I don't know any of the details about what happened there, so I can't comment on it much. All I heard was I scan NASCAR. Some crew chiefs do, some don't. I do, and I heard them post the 18 for putting tape on, or having tape on the grill. And again, without getting specifics to the technical side of the cars, you wouldn't do that. So there's no reason. So I thought to myself, God, I don't know. Maybe they tried to put tape on a brake duct and missed, or some. I don't know. Or I was thinking, could it have been debris? Like, pick up some. I just didn't know. But the bottom line is there's no reason that you would want to do that. So I was confused by the whole situation.
Okay, we'll go all the way in the back and then up to Bob.
Jordan Bonner on Odyssey Richmond. Denny, you kind of talked about it a little bit in Victory Lane, but and even Coach kind of touched on it. Getting a win here at Richmond, obviously everyone knows you're from Chesterfield and that sort of thing, but does it make it that much more special? Like, does it have any sort of different feel going to Victory Lane at Richmond? And then a second question, you talk about Coach's work ethic in the shop. For you as a owner yourself, do you sort of model your sort of ownership style off of Coach Gibbs, and do you sort of lean on him a little bit for guidance or advice or anything like that as an owner?
Yeah, I wish I could work as many hours as he does, but I've got my job here as the driver of the 11 car, and I really donate at least 4 days a week on that, and that's my focus. And then I shift to my team in the middle stages of the week, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Set up all my meetings for the team on those days. But yeah, it's there's a lot that I model after Joe. When we talked about building the team, he was the first person I sat down and asked, and the first thing he says, "You're an idiot," and then the second thing is, "Let me know how I can help." Like, and we need his help. We need his help all the time. We're my people talk to his people that are in the same departments, and we obviously have a technical alliance with those guys, so we really rely on them quite a bit. on that side. You know, we're not ready to hire 200 or 300 people quite yet. But you know, it's an important working relationship that, you know, I hope continues for a very long time. You know, these guys are the ones that took the chance on me. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There wasn't any other top teams at the time looking to sign me way back in the day, just a short track guy. And then FedEx, just, you know, what a risk, you know, just trust in what him and what his son was saying, that we believe in this. And so that certainly is special for me. But as far as your question about the track, yeah, it is more special. There's no question about it. I had more family and friends here than any other racetrack. I drove all the way to Amelia last night and hung out with a bunch of friends in their barn, froze my ass off, had a beer, one beer, and but it was fun to just kind of get back and see everyone from school, and you know, it was just so cool to kind of see all that and spend time with them. And it was you know, did it mean that we won? No, but it's a big feeling inside when they all come to the race and say, you know, we'll see you after in victory lane, right? And then you're able to do it. So it's just special because I sat in the stands here and watched the greatest short track drivers run around here. I've watched them, different techniques, and this track hasn't changed. The shape of it hasn't changed. So I watched, you know, guys like Rusty that were extremely good here, like their lines entering turn one, and you know, that changes with cars and stuff, but still the way they make speed is such an art form. And you know, you just try to do your best as the driver. And I mean, I got Kevin right behind me pressuring me, but I knew that no matter what, if I hit my marks and I concentrate on my job, that like it was going to be very difficult for him to get around me. And part of hitting my marks is like I can't miss it by that much. If I do, my car takes off and then I miss it by 3 feet, and then I'm in big trouble. So you have to be so precise at this racetrack because there's specific time being made in a certain way that it is art.
Okay, come up here to Bob.
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. For Chris and Coach, can you evaluate the new choreography on the pit stops?
Coach got to watch it from a much different lens than me. Obviously, I'm focused on the 11 car, my guys, but in general, I would say our pit crew has been on fire all year. We probably really haven't given them the results that they deserve. So this win was especially thrilling for me in so many ways, and one of which was we gave them the ball twice in the last stage, not once. And both times they executed flawless. I mean, they gained us time both times. And when you're performing this really long 140 lap math problem, them exceeding those numbers just buys you money in the bank. And they've been doing that all year. The latest choreography was a big part of that. I'm not going to downplay that. And nothing ventured, nothing gained. Nothing great comes without risk. And I'm happy to be a part of continuing to push those boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, it was a team win. I mean, he had such a huge role. The pit crew had such a huge role. I had a huge role. The people in the shop had such a huge role. Like, this might have been one of the biggest team, like, everyone had a hand in this victory, and that's super satisfying.
Okay, let's come over here to the middle. Right here.
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress. I think it's something that our guys have really worked hard on. And so I think this is the first time that, you know, the game plan was to use it here, I think, NASCAR and everybody. But I think it'll be interesting because I think we had some of our guys with regular choreography and some with that. So I think that'll be, like I said, a work in progress. We'll analyze it and see what we think, and that's one of the fun things about sports. You know, you get something new and a different way of doing something. I think that's one of the fun things.
Michael Massey, front stretch. Have you guys ever had a race, Denny and Chris, where you started out, it seemed like you guys weren't the best car in your stable. The other 3 cars at one point were in the top 6. You weren't even in the top 10. Have you ever had a race where you just figured it out like that before? And even before the strategy with the fresher tires, you guys really picked it up.
Yeah, there were 2 key restarts. One is when we had the tire advantage that got us, into the top 10, and then once we got there, I had another really good one that got us into the top 3 or 4, and that changed the game. I mean, the aero is just so sensitive on these cars. The further you go to the front, the better your car just naturally is, and it's crazy because even when they get strung out, it's just your car just runs faster. It's hard to explain it, but we made it better too. We certainly made our car better. It takes time to adapt to your car and figuring out, for me, okay, well, this is what I've got. We're not going to change this problem that we have in the car unless we put it in the garage. So how can I make the best lap time I can given this problem that I have? And it just takes a while for me to start to understand it. And, once I start to understand it, then I can tell him how he can improve the things that we can change. And so really there wasn't any panic. I kind of knew, listen, I was frustrated. We weren't in the top 10 and we were just kind of hanging around there. But we just kind of worked. I mean, that's the way we do it. Is he says, tell me what you need. I try to do the best to give him the information he needs, and then he works his strategy, and then I do my job on the restarts. And so it's why it works, is that, you don't give up and you just do your job and you have faith that they're going to do theirs.
And then does this make up at all for last year where you guys kind of played the opposite role and dominated and had it taken from you?
Nothing makes up, that's just not the way that we think, right? It's like you still think that you should have won the ones you should have won, but it is exciting. I mean, certainly it's exciting to win them in this sort of fashion. You'd love to win by a lap, but if you can win on the last lap, that's a more exciting way to win.
Adam Cheek, FrontStretch.com, Richmond Times-Dispatch, and Odyssey Richmond. To kind of piggyback off of what my coworker Jordan said, getting the win at Richmond, how special this track is, did it make it that much more gratifying after coming so close last year and not having won here in like 5 years?
Yeah, he actually asked me when was the last time, and I couldn't remember. I think it was 17 that we won. But, I take a lot of pride in the way I approach short tracks and stuff. And, my way is sometimes antiquated at some tracks, and, I have to adapt. But, yeah, it's just these types of tracks, like he knows I get really frustrated when we don't run well at this type of racetrack, because I feel like I can make a difference. I feel like I know the feel that I want to feel in the car, and it just becomes frustrating from my standpoint when I can't get the car to do what I want it to do. But as long as you trust the process and you go to work when you have those bad races, typically when we come back, we're usually always better because of our process to figure out the margins and where we need to get better. And I do my part, he does his.
Okay, let's go over to Chase, and then we'll go upstairs for the press box for one.
Chase Willem, NASCAR.com. Denny, there's been a lot of attention on the aggression of younger drivers, as well as the recent stretch of wins by younger drivers. Do you feel like today was a race where, especially towards the end, where the differing pit strategies and the tire conservation favored veterans like you and Harvick?
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked to radio about that before the race, and they said that this is going to be a veteran day. I don't know. I mean, Blaney led for a lot of it, and then Truex got up there, and then Byron did. But it's tough to really draw a parallel to that. But it's just when you have so many laps at a track like this that is so technical, even though it doesn't look technical, it is. Usually with track knowledge does matter at this track, and so Harvick's run more laps than I have around here, but Truex, myself, Harvick, we've got a ton around here. And when our car's not running or performing how we need it to perform, we can do things to manipulate it to maximize lap time to at least put us in the game. So I think being a veteran of the sport, probably helps in those instances.
Okay, let's go up to the press box.
Chris Knight, catchfence.com. Chris, is there anything that you learned this weekend at Richmond and perhaps what you can learn next weekend at Martinsville that you can apply to Bristol in 2 weeks with the next-gen car?
Bristol dirt? I don't know. The neat part about where we're at right now is there's so little that the race teams know that every lap on the racetrack, you better be learning something, and it's pretty significant. Like, we struggled at Phoenix and went to a Darlington test, and I learned a ton about Phoenix at Darlington that I helped apply to this race. So, I mean, that tells you where we're at. I mean, Phoenix, Darlington, Richmond. So you got to be learning each and every day, each and every week. And again, I know with our team specifically, and when I say team, I mean Joe Gibbs Racing and certainly the 11, we got a lot of good stuff coming. We're not hitting on all 8 right now, but we know the direction we got to march. And while all race teams, I'm sure, can say that to a certain degree right now because the car's so new, it's a lot of fun from that aspect. It's a lot of work. It's super frustrating because I know he's not going to drive a perfect race car on any Sunday right now. You're just not there. You're just not going to get it that perfect right now. But our job is to be better than everyone else, not be perfect. And today we found a way to do that.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Chris, I've got 2 for you. I'm just curious, obviously it's a long season already, NASCAR, and now this year is the one off week later in the summer. How concerned are you about just monitoring your guys for burnout and just making sure you're taking care of them when it comes to just being put through the ringer this year?
For sure. Definitely. Enough that I spent weeks of the off season putting together an organized schedule that would give each of my guys 2 extra weekends off, and it's done in a way that won't hurt the race team. It's scheduled, choreographed. It's not haphazard. They all know what weekends they're getting off and when, because I think it's a big deal. On top of rolling out a new car, we're now all traveling more than we have with a much reduced roster. Part shortages, there's no secret on all that. So it's a lot of work for these guys. It's a big deal, and I spent a lot of time in the off season trying to get it to where I thought we could get it.
Yeah, and that just was going to segue into my second question, which is, were you going to be in a position to maybe swap guys out and move people around if you had to?
It's all done.
Yeah.
Yep. I literally, from race 1 to 36, they all know when they're getting off and who's going and how behind the wall choreography is going to change. I mean, it's a big deal. I didn't want it to be a distraction. If you didn't do it right, week to week, it would be a distraction, but I wanted it to be such that everybody could plan an off weekend with their families, and all that's been done.
Okay, let's go over here.
Anybody got anything for Joe? Let him go home.
Well, they're yelling at me back there. Thank
There you go.
One-
Let Matt.
One more for Joe. How about upstairs? Any more questions for Joe?
Yeah, Randy Holman from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. You talked about the uncertainty of trying to learn how to work the car and the things you learn from track to track that's sort of translated. So when you go to Martinsville, do you think you've got any tricks up your sleeve that are going to work there?
Joe, you got any tricks up your sleeve for Martinsville?
I'm going to be standing on the sideline praying. That's about all I got. Now, I think you probably meant, to Denny. So on that one.
It's week, like Chris said, it's so week to week. I don't know. I mean, I hope not, but we win this week, we could run 15th. I have no idea. Until we go back to tracks for the second time, everything is so new that it's impossible to predict.
I could see Martinsville be one of the more different races for a guy like Denny that we've went to yet. I mean, Denny is so honed in at Martinsville through so many different types of car over his career. But in a Cup car, we just took 80 horsepower away from him. We gave him a 2-inch wider tire. It's a 200-pound heavier car. It's got a higher center of gravity. And it's got better brakes. he's going to go to Martinsville in the first 10 laps, be as lost as last year's Easter egg, because he was so honed in on what was perfection for Martinsville for that car over so many years, and this car is going to be wildly different. So I think that's fun. I think that's a lot of fun for you guys to watch. I think that's why you're seeing great racing. But golly, it's a lot of learning right now for these guys for sure.
Yeah, for Coach, this is probably for the debrief early this week, but have you had a chance to talk to John Hunter and Ty and get them together and kind of walk through what happened on Saturday?
Yeah, you don't want something like that to wind up like that, particularly for John Hunter. And I think Ty tried to explain yesterday that he was going in there with the intent. I think he was definitely going to try and get underneath and make a move to win. He just didn't think that he would probably hit him that hard. So I know I'll talk to him. And what I always talk to Ty about is going right to the person immediately. And he's been pretty good about that. So I would think they would talk that over. We like John Hunter a lot. That car was a very fast car, and they did a great job with it. But I think that's always between the drivers, And so I just encourage them to talk about it. Yeah.
You know, it was pretty funny though. I asked Joe about 10 minutes after the race, "What's your thoughts?" And he says, "Hope you win tomorrow." This is all right.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out. Hey,
How we do on that, Coach?
Yeah.
We delivered on that, didn't we?
Hey, thank y'all.
Okay, we got time for one more. Let's wrap it up over here.
This is for both Chris and Denny. With how different everything is now with the Gen 7 car, is there anything you can take from the LA Coliseum for Martinsville?
Yeah, that's insane, right? I'm telling you, I save. The only thing you probably can't take to Martinsville would be something from Daytona. I mean, it's just that different. I mean, you're learning that much every week. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't stress to you enough. If you're not connecting dots from week to week and track to track right now, you're not doing it right.
Okay, guys, we appreciate you coming in. Good luck the rest of the year.
Okay.